Welcome back to Man vs. Meeple, the show where we talk about all things board game related. We are here today to talk about another Kickstarter preview. This time it's for Dead Man's Doubloons from Thundergryph Games. They brought us Tao Long not long ago on Kickstarter, and this is their next one.
That's right. So this is a game that's very similar to Jamaica, which is a very popular game that's been out for years.
It definitely feels like a cousin of that game for sure.
It is a family game, though.
Yeah.
And it plays, as you said, 2 to 6 players, about 45 minutes to an hour to get through. So each of the players is going to be representing a pirate captain.
Right.
The trick, though, is the pirate captain is on the island while his crewmates are manning his ships.
Yeah, the ships
around the outside.
will forever be circling the island like vultures in this game, and the captain is trying to basically find the buried treasure.
That's right. So there's a timer in the game. The timer is finding the treasure. There's different nodes on the board where the captain will be moving. Other pirate clans will be following them along across the board, and then there's pirate ships. Think of the board as 4 quadrants because each of these is broken into 4 different areas where the pirate ships will be located. There's also different tiles in each of the corners that will represent actions that either happen at the start of the round or during the round or when your ship moves into those locations. I will note that this is mostly done, but there are some components that aren't quite finalized yet that we don't have. The Meeples, of course, will have stickers on them. There's going to be ghost ships, too, because your ship can be destroyed, and they're going to be like a clear acrylic type of ship.
Clear acrylic. You can always count, we learned this with Tao Long. Thundergryph Games definitely knows how to present a game, and this game, like Jeremy said, is in prototype form, but very, very nice still. So
you're going to be moving your captain across the board, finding treasures as they go. There's 3 different types of paths. There's easy, medium, and hard paths that you can go to. They're represented by blue, yellow, and red dots on the board. They all represent different map locations. These map locations do specific things when a captain goes to those areas.
Right. You shuffle these up at the beginning of the game, and as you explore, you're going to lay the tiles. And those are going to be tiles that everyone has to deal with if they cross that. Like Jeremy said, the red path is the difficult path. It's really mostly negative tiles that come out there, but it's a much shorter path to get to the mountain.
Right. Each player will represent a specific captain, as we mentioned. They have their own player board. On the player board, you have a number of health. That's 1 to 10. That's for your ship's integrity.
Right.
And once your ship hits 0 health, it can turn into a ghost ship, as we mentioned. You have 4 crew members. Your crew members protect your ship, and when they get killed, you lose abilities in the game. You can lose cards.
Yeah.
You can lose your ship's ability because each of the captains has their own innate, unique ability throughout the course of the game.
And hand size, of course.
And hand size.
Which is key in how you play this game. The crew members basically will be peeled off left to right if you take that sort of damage. And like Jeremy said, you lose these abilities. And there's ways to get the crew back, but it can be kind of devastating.
You have a fame track up in the upper left-hand portion. This gives you victory points for killing other players in the game. You can also get fame on the island, depending on the tiles that you discover. You have a little portion on the bottom right that tells you what your ghost ship does and does not do anymore once it is destroyed. And you have a place at the end when the treasure, the main treasure, is found on the player board. All your captains will retreat back into their ships, and then a timer starts by playing specific cards in the game.
It becomes a free-for-all out in the ocean where everyone's firing each other and trying to get away with as much treasure as possible.
You have a number of doubloons. The game scales, so you're going to start with a very specific number of doubloons on the island. When you gather doubloons or money in the game, you're going to gather them from the island location. Also, you're trying to pillage the island as you go along. You're going to be collecting pillage tokens, which are represented by the skull and crossbones that you see there. The person that has the most during the round will collect more of those doubloons. The whole game is driven, though, by cards.
Yeah, it's a programming game. Very light programming game.
Yeah.
So the way the game starts, after you've set up, everyone's going to get 5 cards.
Yep.
And these cards have a variety of different things on them, but everyone's going to lay down 3 of the cards face down simultaneously. And then all at once, everyone's going to reveal their first card.
Yep.
Then in player turn order, you're going to resolve those cards.
Yes.
So the way the cards work is at the very top, there's going to be some movement. Sometimes it's necessary or required. Sometimes it's up to the player. And it's going to have either, move forward. And if you move forward, you're just going to move in the direction of your ship. Or you could come about, which is literally just rotating your ship back in the other direction.
And that's very important because ship direction in this game is important for firing at other vessels and then firing in the same location as vessels.
Exactly. So when you're moving around, you want to position yourself so you can best do some of the other actions on the card. So on the bottom of the card, there are going to be 2 actions.
Yep.
Now you're going to choose from one of the 2 of these actions. So this is anything from repairing your ship to firing forward into the next section.
Yep.
Maybe broadsides firing to all the ships in your same section.
Yep.
You can board ships.
Yep.
Now, that's not as complicated as it sounds. You literally, it just has a boarding icon, and you're usually stealing something, either doubloons or a map fragment, something like that from another player.
That's right. Once that happens, players will then reveal their second card, do the same actions, and then they reveal their third card, and then that's the end of the round, so to speak.
Exactly. Now, the interesting thing that happens here, you're asking yourself, well, where's the island come into play?
Yes.
There is an action on the card where you're taking a map fragment. At the beginning of the game, each player is going to start with a random map fragment. Now, these have depending on player count, one of a number of different icons on them. Once you've collected a second map fragment, then, from that point forward, when you use that action, you're actually going to move your captain along one of the tracks. You know, basically representing you've collected the map, now you're on your way to the treasure.
Yeah.
So you're going to be moving from that point on. So once you have 2 map fragments, that's kind of the goal of the game. So it's interesting because the cards are going to play with the ships and with the captain. And if you don't get any of those map fragments or map fragment cards, your captain might sit on the beach for a little while while someone else is going on there, and then it's up to you to use your ship to sort of damage them.
The good thing is there's 2 ways to collect the map fragments, either from the cards that have the map fragment on them or from stealing them from a location.
Right.
So you can put yourself into a position on the outskirts of the island in your ship to steal map fragments from other players. What's also cool about that is that when you have the map fragments, other players can follow you. Now, as David said, that each of these different map fragments have icons on them. If you have the same icon that another captain utilizes to move forward 1 space on the island, each of those players that have the same icon can follow that player. So it allows them to also progress up in the island. And it's very important because once a player is finally able to reach the skull location, you get to pillage from the skull location, and those are jewels that are hidden in the bag worth a different denomination of victory points at the end.
Exactly. So it's a combination of moving your ship around, doing some damage, stealing some things from other pirates, as good pirates do, and moving your captain to that end game at the mountain. So like Jeremy said, once you're at the mountain, players are going to get a variety of different levels of jewels from the bag, and then it triggers the end game, which is a little more intense and a lot more fast-paced.
Yeah, so once the end game is triggered, each of the players will pull all of their captains, wherever they are on the board, back to their player boards. When they pull them back to their player board, they start on the farthest left location. And basically what's going to happen is you're going to introduce a new deck of cards into the deck of cards that's used every round.
Yeah, so everyone discards all the cards, and it's all reshuffled and dealt 5 new cards.
These new cards have an icon in the middle portion of the card that shows 2 sabers that are crossed. Anytime a player plays one of those on their turns, they move their captain 1 step forward. Now, these are rare than the other cards, so whenever all 3 of those locations are moved up, that triggers the end of the game. But what's cool, though, by that point in the game, most of the players will either be dead or be limping along on their ships and not be able to do much.
Or maybe even a ghost ship,
or even
like
a
you
ghost
said.
ship, Now, what's unique about the ghost ships is that they don't take any damage in the game.
Right.
Once they're a ghost ship, they basically sit idle. Now, they can turn about and shoot in the locations that they're pointing at, but they don't take any more damage. But if you have 5 doubloons at the end of a round,
you can basically reincarnate yourself. So you can heal back up, you get a couple crew back, and you can basically still win the game. In fact, you could win the game as a ghost ship.
Possibly, but it's difficult.
It would be hard.
It's difficult because if you end the game as a ghost ship, all of your things that provide victory points provide you 1 less victory point.
Right, you'd have to have quite the lead to win that way.
Yeah, so that's basically the game.
You're going to score up at that point. So basically, it's a race to whomever can get their captain to the finish mark, and at that point you add up all your loot, your doubloons, your the jewels that you might have collected on the island,
and then any fame you've collected too. As we said, fame is collected from killing other players, so you want to do damage in the ocean locations to them because you go up in fame. Now it's not a 1-for-1. The first time you move up in fame, you get 3 victory points. The second time, you get 7 victory points, and the last time, you get 12.
Right, exactly. So this is a nice, and it's a nice way to counter someone who might have raced to the mountain and got a bunch of jewels. If you were stuck on the beach or you didn't get close enough to the mountain, you could focus on sailing around, doing some damage to other ships, hopefully taking some out and scoring your points that way.
And you can also focus, if you're not able to advance on the island very well, you can also focus on going for pillage tokens and collecting a lot of the doubloons, because each of the doubloons is worth 1 victory point at the end of the game.
Exactly.
So if this is something that interests you guys, check it out. It is called Dead Man's Doubloon by Thundergryph Games. If you guys have any questions, make them in the comments below. Please subscribe to us as always. Follow us on Facebook, like us on Twitter, and everything else that we do here at Man vs. Meeple, and we will catch you guys next time.
Bye-bye.